Good morning, Erica. How are you doing this morning?
I'm great, thank you.
Thank you for inviting me to your cafe. Love it. Always been a big fan of the Second Cup.
Thank you.
I live in the area, but it's not the reason why I come here, and I really enjoy being here. I come here all the time. Every time I come in here, just like you get that smile, that warm feeling every time you walk in through the door, and that's probably the hook for me. And that's the reason why I ask so many of my friends to come here, business opportunities or whichever, right? But each time I come in here, I see you and I see you steadily working. And I'm always asking myself, what is she doing? I know you're doing so much, but just like I know there's so much behind, the person that's at the laptop, at the corner. And so those are my questions for you. It's tell me a little bit about you. Are you originally from Houston or where are you from?
Yeah, that's a great question. I am not from Houston.
Okay.
I am from California. I was born and raised in a place called Bakersfield, California, which interestingly enough, people often consider it a town that was picked up out of Texas and dropped in the middle of California based on the values and kind of the economic interest that we have there. I was born and raised in Bakersfield, and then I went to college on the Central Coast in San Luis Obispo at Cal Poly, and I, interestingly enough, studied animal science and ecology and systematic biology, which obviously prepared me to open a coffee shop and start a nonprofit.
Prepared you to open a coffee. So how'd you end up in Houston? What brought you that far?
Last year of college, I was debating about what I wanted to do, and I stumbled upon an organization called Teach for America. And basically, they're an organization that takes typically recent college graduates and puts them into low-income classrooms to try to close the achievement gap that exists between lower-income schools and higher-income schools. And so you kind of rank where you would like to go in the country, and most people get their first or second choice. I did not. I got Houston and moved here a bit begrudgingly, and did not expect to stay any longer than my 2 years that I was in Teach for America. And I came in 2005 and taught in HISD and loved my students and loved the city, surprisingly enough. And but then I moved to Philadelphia about a year later and worked on staff with Teach for America. And the community of Houston brought me back. I really love the people here. I think, the people in Houston have the biggest hearts, and so it really drew me back. And so then I moved back in 2008, and I've been here ever since.
I understand the feeling. I've tried to move twice as far away as I can, and I keep
hard to get
coming
away,
back
get
each
sucked back
time.
in, yeah.
So how'd you get involved into the passion, into the path that you're into now?
Yeah, I have always really had a passion for social justice, and when I see injustice, it breaks me to my core. And so I learned about human trafficking in December of 2010, and I attend the Vineyard Church of Houston, and every Advent season we do something where we kind of focus on different organizations, and the one we focus on was called Love 146, and they are an anti-trafficking group that's based out of Connecticut, but they do a lot of international work and have a couple of different safe houses. And that was the very first time I was introduced to even the concept of human trafficking, the idea that people could be utilizing other human beings for their own benefit. And it wrecked me. I remember sitting in my seat listening to the speaker and just being angry and frustrated and so confused that this could be happening in the world, let alone in Houston, where I came back because people had such big hearts here. And at the time I was working in a middle school and recognizing that the students that I was working with were some of the most vulnerable to being trafficked. I couldn't stay away. So I read all the books that I could think of reading. I went to every single orientation I could find with organizations that existed here in Houston, and learned that Houston was actually a hub in the United States for human trafficking, and got involved as much as I could with those other organizations, but just kept feeling compelled to do more. And so kept exploring what that looked like, and here we are.
How many years ago was that?
So I first heard about it in December of 2010, and started the journey of exploration kind of from January 2011. And then September of 2011 was when we had our first board meeting for A 2nd Cup, when A 2nd Cup was really just an idea on paper and still kind of floating around in my head. So it's been let's see, almost 6 years now.
Wow, 6 years.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, being Estonian, I didn't realize how much of an epidemic that was, that was causing here within the city, and much that's going, on in our neighborhoods and our communities. And so when I walked in, I was thoroughly surprised. All the infographics you have on the wall are so calming. It's like, okay, what's going on? And you finally realize, and you do your own research, and you get more involved in it.
Yeah.
But why a coffee shop? How did you figure that a coffee shop would be able to reach so many people?
Yeah, well, that was kind of just happenstance and luck, I think. I have always really loved coffee shops, and regardless of where I've lived in the United States, that's been one of my favorite things to do is explore the local coffee scene. And I lived outside of San Francisco, and I lived out in Philadelphia and outside of Boston, and I love local coffee houses and just the different kind of vibe they bring. And I would always joke that I would start a coffee shop, and it was really a joke because I didn't have any experience in the food industry or the hospitality industry, and so it really was just a joke, but I really still loved coffee shops. And so as I was kind of exploring my passion to fight human trafficking, one day I remember I was doing dishes in my apartment, and the idea came to me, what if we started a coffee shop that fought human trafficking? And it sounds absurd and silly, and but I started telling people about it, and people were on board and supportive and excited about the idea, and so I just kept moving forward. And the more that we moved forward, the more it kind of took shape, and the more it became about ensuring that people knew that human trafficking was happening. We want people who don't know to come in here and learn. And then not just to learn, but to go out and do something, to use their skills and their passions and their experiences to fight human trafficking in their own way.
I'm in awe right now because I'm considering it, because right when you first walk in, people are like, a coffee shop that does this?
Yeah.
And then once you start spreading the word, and once you tell others, like I've told my friends, I've told the professionals about the coffee and what the impact of what this cup of coffee can do and what it's doing, the awareness it is bringing, the information it's bringing in neighborhoods is there, and like, are you serious? This is a coffee shop. But the more you get involved, the more you realize there's people that want to make a difference, people that want to get involved. So how are you reaching that crowd that want to get involved?
Yeah, it's really rare to find somebody who hears about human trafficking and is like, meh, oh well, or, oh, that's sad, too bad for them. Usually people are like, okay, what can I do about it? And so we want to make it really easy and tangible for people to go from awareness into action. For me, that journey was pretty long, or it felt really long. I spent like every single weekend at a different orientation for different organizations in Houston, even just to figure out what they did and to figure out where I fit. And so we want to make that process more streamlined for people. So we do a couple of things. We have back behind us, I don't know if you can see, on the other side of that pallet wall, we have the different allies that we work with, the anti-trafficking allies, with what they do, and pull tabs of information about them so that people can contact them. So people can figure out where they fit within the organizations that exist in Houston. We also keep a calendar of anti-trafficking events that are happening around the city so that people don't have to go online and spend hours searching what options are available. And we have awareness events here where we empower people to utilize what they know, what they're good at, what they're passionate about, to actually fight human trafficking. And I think that everybody has something, and so they just need to find their niche, and hopefully we provide avenues to help them to do that.
Ultimately, what is your envision? Is it multiple cafes? Is it something that reaches across the United States, or is just what is your vision ultimately for
I like vision setting, and so my ultimate vision for a second cup would be kind of twofold. Number one, that we're not just a place where we raise awareness and connect people to opportunities to get involved, but that we also are an avenue for support for survivors. So one of the things we're working on right now is creating a culinary training program to give survivors tools to be able to get back out, rebuild their lives, and thrive in the world. And so that's kind of like what we're working on next. But then once we have that under our belt, and once we're successful at that, I would love to see a second cup expand into cities where this is happening around the country and around the world. Everywhere needs a place like a second cup to inform the community about what's happening in the world and in that specific location. But there also needs to exist a place where survivors can gain skills and experiences and confidence to go out into the world and thrive. So, and I think A2nd Cup brings that. So if we could replicate this all over the world, that would be my vision.
Wow. Thank you. That is
Yeah.
awesome. I wanted to say again, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
You've definitely told me a great story.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers.